Hello, everyone. Well, long overdue, and again, I apologize, but this recording should help you think your way through the process of your spreadsheet and how to plan your build. So, when you get your spreadsheet, and I'm going to use one company already's component sheet, it's going to look like this. You're already going to see that you're only able to build at level 1. And every time you add lines, automate a line, or do any upgrades to these build levels, it's going to show up on your cover sheet, which is the first tab in your spreadsheet. You started with a base P&L that showed you how much profit you made, what lines you're making, and gives you an idea of the facts and figures here as you acquired the company. Now, whether you are a component or a chip manufacturer, these things are going to be consistent in that you're going to have a cost sheet every year. So cost 1 for year 1, cost 2 for year 2, and so on down the line for every year. You have a tab for every year that's going to be in the game of 5 rounds. Each year, some of these costs may go up. One thing that will go up for sure will be your labor costs. So here's how you read this. You know this year 1, you are building at level 1, no matter what. So these are the costs individually for model 1, year 1, all the way on through. And over here you're going to see this is your total material cost to make one part for level 1. And here is the labor factor. So for level 1, it takes 5 people to make this at a cost of 0.583 cents per person. So your labor cost per part is going to be $2.92. You add those two together, and it comes up to this total right over here that tells you that it's going to cost you $22.83 material and labor to build one part at level 1 for eMachine. And if you scroll down, you'll see the same thing for every part that you make. Here you can see Hi-Tech is costing you $41.55 per part to make. Going to your year 1 sheet, here it shows you that you have a variety of costs. So the way you can do this is, right here where it says built, go in and put in if you're only building 50,000, because you're an American company, put that figure in. If you're a Chinese company, you're going to put in 75,000. So you're going to have, and you don't know what those are yet because I determine those, but you're going to have a set amount, percentage of defects and scrap. So this means after the defects and scrap and the amount that can be reworked, out of 50,000, you're only going to have 48,745 that you are going to be able to sell. In the case of 75,000 line, you would have 73,000. So the next thing you're going to do is figure out how much you're going to sell your product for. You have your labor costs, material, and so forth, and so far not getting any money at all, you've lost $1,600,000. So now you're going to go, all right, how much do we want to build this for? Let's say $45. You put that figure in, and then here you say you sold them all, because we want to think positive. So if you sell them all, your contribution margin is $627,000. You take out your period costs, you've made $298,000. You can adjust this figure any way you want. Now let's sell it for 50. You sell it at 50, go down to the bottom, you now see that you made $505,000. Down here, it tells you what your average cost per part is. That's the material, labor, and all your other fixed costs and variable costs. And this is how much you threw away. $48,494. That's a matter of the scrap. That's what it cost you. Now, If you added a quality engineer, it would lower this over here. Your scrap and defects would lessen. You'd have more product for sale. Your profit would be higher. Your cost of quality would go down. And so you would make more money. So you'll do that with every line that you make. You're going to be looking at E-Machine, standard, premium, and high-tech lines. You're going to produce 50,000 or 75,000 no matter what you do, whether you're American or American or Chinese. So you can plan it all out by tweaking these numbers in here. And each year, your costs. Now, the thing that you have to do to make sure you're accurate is, right now, these labor costs are set at a certain number off your cost sheet. So if you're going to build level 2s instead of R1 for labor, you're going to want to go to R2, which means you would go in here and change that number to R2. Here it's set for R4. So it's real simple. You just change those numbers, the R number and the S number, on your year to get a very accurate cost, because they're going to be predicated right off of this cost sheet. So you know all your costs right here. At the end of the round, you will get this sheet. It'll tell you what your sales was for each line, what your profit was for each line. If you do any line conversions, you add any lines, you automate, you add a pokeyoke, all those costs will be in there, and it will tell you what your net profit is here at the bottom. So hopefully you gain profit, and that'll increase this. So now let's take a look at your production planning form. So now let's take a look at your production planning form. This is what you are going to have to submit to me so that we can make your build, and you tell us what you want to do with your company and what you want to build, how much you're going to sell it for. So you're going to start with the top by putting the name of your company in here. You have to decide, do you want to add a third shift? It's not going to cost you anything. It's just going to be price per part per labor, so there's no cost involved. You want to add a third shift, that'll increase you to $75,000 per line. If you don't, you want to stay at 50,000 products per line, leave that check right here. Now, I'm going to tell you that, keep this in mind, everything that you do, all the planning that you're going to make here, will not happen until next year. This is round 1. You have 5 lines, and none of these things come into play until next year. The only thing that will change right now, if you want to do it, is adding quality engineers to reduce your scrap and your defects and to increase your quality rating. So you're just going to say how many quality engineers you want to add to each line. 0 if you don't want any. 1 if you want 1 per line. 2 if you want 2 per line. You add a quality engineer, it's going to happen on every line you have. So let's say that you decided, I'm going to have 2 quality engineers on all my E-Machine lines. You would put 2 there, and you'll have them right away this round with lower scrap and defects costs. Now, do you want to add any production lines? You can have a total of 12. So right now, you could add as many as you want of any of these. You can only add 7 lines because you already have 5. So if you want to add a bunch of lines right away, you can go 2, 1, 1, 2, whatever. Put it in here. Next year, those lines will be in place. How many ever lines you add now will be how many lines you will have next year. You want to upgrade. And here's all the costs. They're right there for you. That costs you $750,000. Upgrading to the higher levels is going to cost you $100,000, and you're going to want to do that whether you jump 1, 2, 3, or 5 levels at once. You're going to want to do that so you get to the higher levels later in the years. So right now you're all at 1. I can just put 1 in there. And let's say you want to go to level 3. So you're going to say, we want to go from level 1 to level 3 so we can build level 3 e-machines. And so on every line that you want to work with. If you're going to get out of a line or you're going to drop out of e-machine or whatever, don't bother upgrading because you're going to be wasting your money. To convert a line that you have presently, it's going to cost you $250,000. So let's say we don't want to be in the high-tech market. So you're going to go change high-tech to whatever you want it to be. So you can say change high-tech line to a standard line. Next year, that high-tech line will go away, and it will be a standard line. Let's say you want to reduce your workers. So you're going to automate by reducing your workforce. You can automate up to half. So if you have 5 people on the line, you can automate up to 2, because you can't have half a person. If you have 8 people on the line, you could automate up to half, which would be 4. So it would definitely cut the cost of your labor a lot. So you just say how many levels of automation that you want that will displace 1 worker. As we get going, you're going to find out that you can add a poka-yoke. A poka-yoke means that you want to totally reduce all the scrap and defects that you're making. You want to have the maximum amount of production available with the least amount of scrap and defects. You can add one, and it'll happen all across the company, not just per line. It'll happen everywhere. But you have to do a fishbone diagram, and we'll explain that later. Right now, you just need to know that to do this, you have to have a fishbone diagram, which is a quality problem-solving exercise. When you turn the page over, you're going to see selling price, leftover price. The first year, you're not going to have any leftovers, so don't worry about it. So you're all going to be at level 1, and when you upgrade, you can still make any of the ones below that. So if you upgraded to level 5 this year, for next year you can make level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. If you only upgrade to level 3, then you can only make 1, 2, and 3. So this round, you're going to tell us how much you want to sell your product for. So you're going to go 2 lines of level 1. We're going to sell it at, let's say, $50 a part. And so on, all the way on down the line for standard, premium, and high-tech. How many ever lines you have, you're going to tell me what level you want to build them at and how much you want to sell them for. If, for some reason, the end of this year, you do not sell some of your product, it will be left as leftover inventory, unsold from last round. So when that happens, you're going to put in here your new build next year, and then you're going to include the level of product that you didn't sell and how much you want to sell them for. You never want to sell these for the same price as the new. These are old. They're a year old. So let's say you sell these at 50 and you have 1 line or 25,000 parts you didn't sell of level 1. Next year you're going to want to sell them like at $45 so that you sell them at a lower price. Again, they're not new parts anymore. And you'll do that all the way on down the line as you plan out. So again, this first page is what do you want to do and have for next year. This page is what do you want to sell it for this year. So keep those 2 straight. For my distance classes, I will be sending you this form. You're going to want to need to fill that out now. For my distance classes, I will be sending you this form. You're going to want to need to fill that out now and bring it to class. So my Traverse City 370 class, you're going to bring that in Tuesday night. My other class, 302 class, that only meets on Tuesday, you're going to need to fill this out, make your decisions with your management team, and bring it to class Tuesday. The other classes will get this form from me in class today. So, that's how you do your production planning. And this is your spreadsheet. It helps you understand your costs involved. So if you use the two together, you should be able to figure out what you're going to make, how much it's going to cost you, and what you want to sell it for. Now, one last thing. In your student information folder is a Tech Wars section. The manual is in there. There's also a PowerPoint there that says Making It Work. That should also help you through the step-by-step to figure out how to do things. Okay? Now, at the very end of your manual is a manual, and it also tells you what the forecast is. Again, is a manual, and it also tells you what the forecast is. Again, I told you this in class, how much is going to be sold every year over the 5 years. Over here in this section is something that you really need to pay attention to. Recommended minimum selling price. Do not sell your parts below this price. You will not make money. You can sell higher and use a spreadsheet to manipulate the figures so that you know what you're doing, but do not sell below this cost, okay? All right, any questions? Shoot me an email, folks. I hope this helps.